So finally I'm able to use the mobile hotspot, and also now I can use two devices at once, so I can actually show evidence and record live at the same time, which is pretty important. Having to try to communicate with that officer in Starbucks today was not the right environment for it, but where else am I supposed to meet him? I'm not happy about the fact that it wasn't recorded. The way that you guys want to assume it is, and the way that I've shown it to be, are not the same. Just because you don't want to look at it doesn't mean it's not that way. Just because you want to look away from facts and actual evidence doesn't make you right. What's more important, being right or winning? It seems to me most of you winning, and many of you, of course, hiding. Alright, we need to talk about Kaycee Perry. She was one of the people that went missing, and I've known her. I was probably one of the first people that ever saw her when she came into this world. She got a brain injury just a few days after she was born, and when she got that brain injury, I didn't see her for a few years. There's a lot of stuff that I've tried to share with her about how things were back then, and of course, even though some of these people that don't like me anymore, you know, they still talk to her, thank goodness. And they let her know a few more things than even I knew about the situation. So I'm glad that helps her with that. But with her going missing twice and being found and going through the trials, tribulations, and turmoil that she's going through, that includes having a stent in her brain that should have been removed. It was deemed unsafe like 8 years ago. I don't know if you know this, but there's stuff that happens to certain types of materials after time when you put it into your body. Hoses and tubes and anything that drains fluid out of your brain. You know, it's her being found alive. That's great. That really is. But, you know, I'd like to see her again before I die. I'd like for her not to die of a tube that's moving back and forth in her skull. It was supposed to be removed 8 years ago, and for the last few years she's had to deal with the fact that the tube is now loose. It gives her crippling migraines. She's not getting that surgery, and she definitely needs it. She does need that help. RebeccaAnn Grossnickle Foley, she's going through a lot too. The people that she pissed off, well, she didn't piss them off. It's the fact that she told on them that pissed them off. Their thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the matter, and their fear of being arrested. In Kaycee Perry's situation, there is severe criminal negligence on the part of the state. Continued negligence. They knew she should have had that surgery years ago, and now they're making it impossible. Like, in this supposedly wonderful country, I got to worry about somebody. I was so glad when she was found alive, and now what? Now I'm all the way here in Oregon, and she needs surgery, and she needs help. And I don't know what to do other than to speak out about the situation. With Rebecca, I know that speaking out about the situation helps to bring light to it, helps to show that she's been telling the truth. There are already several people who have come forward now, other than myself, to admit that she did feed them. Both of these women are in different places. Rebecca had to go to Washington State. Some of the stuff that she's been dealing with, they want her to travel all over the place. The abuse at the hands of the very same people, but she has to go all over the place to try to get something done about it. She has to spend a bunch of money she doesn't have. She has to try to find a place to plug in so that she can charge up her electronics. And she's in Washington State. I've got footage of Washington State. You guys can go through that. You can see how the cops treated me, how they made me try to turn in the cop that I was trying to turn in, Officer Schneider. Instead of sending me to their professional standards division, they forwarded me to Schneider. What the hell is wrong with them? My issues in Washington State that happened after Natalie's death, about situations where my evidence was stolen repeatedly, my electronics were stolen repeatedly, police refused to do a goddamn thing. Most of the employees at Starbucks were cool, but like I said, all it takes is just one person that doesn't like you, has a bad opinion of you. Just one. I got recordings there in Washington State with people who've got heroin needles hanging out of their arms. I've got videos there in Washington State that there's heroin needles all over the fucking ground. I've got several people talking about the local prostitutes. And those prostitutes, some of them actually shared with me why they're out there, how it all got started. One of them ladies, she had her neck broke. That's a scary thing to have happen. And her pain was so severe, like her fingertips always hurt. What? And they gave her morphine. And she was eventually, she wasn't permanently paralyzed, just mostly. When she was finally able to rehabilitate herself, she was in such severe pain, and they told her they couldn't give her any more pain meds. So she's been hooking out there in Tacoma, Washington for a few years. There's another lady who's an addict out there, and I didn't quite get her story. She's recorded on there, though, along with a couple of the security guards there. I had conversations with the security guards about my stuff getting stolen. It was when I was trying to turn in Officer Schneider that the cops there in Tacoma and also Lakewood, Washington, they did everything they could to prevent me from turning in those officers, to ignore the abuse by those officers. And it's horrible. And the people at Starbucks spoke up about how horrible it was to me. They didn't speak up elsewhere. I guess they had made a couple of complaints to Janelle, who was the manager there at 72nd. With Rebecca being there and filling paperwork out there, because they're the ones that are hopefully going to investigate at least a part of it. But they need to investigate here in Oregon, too. They also need to expedite. Some of those crimes were committed here in Oregon, and some of them were committed in Hawaii, of all places. A lot of people want to believe that these things don't happen and can't happen. Kaycee Perry was somebody I know in person who is a missing person. Right now, my friend Jason Hawk is missing. He's also on my YouTube channel, speaking up about the human trafficking in Colorado and about police involvement. And he actually knows a few people who have been on the news because of the human trafficking in Colorado. So you guys might want to listen to him, except currently he is missing. Nobody knows where he's at. Christine Buhit, she spoke up about a bit of that in some of the videos that I have as well, not as in depth. But she was speaking about the evidence that's on her account. It does exist. That is her voice, and she does admit to it. She also speaks about a guy that I've spoken about in my stories more than once. His name is Josh Hughes. Pretty good with computers. That's why she was talking about trying to find him and help break into her own account. That's just crazy, having to break into your own account. Meanwhile, she needed to break into her own account so that she could get the evidence that I had on it. Now that Christine is dead, it's no bueno. I need to get a court order to unseal her Facebook and get all of the evidence off of there, all of the correspondence, show how it actually was. I'm not going to pretend I'm not, at times, a mean-hearted son of a bitch, because I certainly am. You kill my friends, you goddamn right I'm going to speak up. You damn right. You threaten to kill my friends and family over shit that didn't even happen. You goddamn right I'm going to speak up. And if you're going to victimize me and them because I spoke up, what the hell is wrong with you? When my little sister became a mother, she became a lot more honest a person. The parts where she was dishonest after becoming a mother was because she was afraid of what people might think of her and what they might do to her because of those thoughts. It's not just opinions. People commit to action based on opinions. Some people have the opinion that loyalty is the most important thing, so you can manipulate them with that. Some people are of the opinion that, well, a certain group of people are horrible people just because they exist, and you can prey on that. And so many people do that. They prey on your bias. They prey on your hatreds. They prey on your misconceptions and your assumptions, and they try to reinforce the most negative portions. Rebecca don't deserve to be treated like she's crazy for saying things that I know to be true. It is not okay to slander her for telling the truth, to gaslight her and make her out to be some lunatic so that nobody listens and nobody looks. I've got a lot more evidence than she does, but I've also had access to things that she hasn't. And that is something that I will absolutely admit. The electronics that I have, yeah, I use them for trying to save lives, not just hers, not just Kaycee's. When Brandon Ratner's brother, Sean Ratner, disappeared, he was found safely, thank goodness. He was found by cops. And you know what? I'm glad for that. Whether it was the cops or his own family or somebody that I know and was able to reach out to, I'm just glad that he was found safely. with Kaycee. I'm glad that she was found safely. Not all of these people were. I'm worried about Bobby Forrest. He's supposedly a friend of mine. He was a friend of Natalie Bollinger's. He's still friends with her on Facebook. I mean, obviously he can't be friends with her because she's dead, but he's still on her Facebook friends list. It's not like he's exited off of her friends list when she died. But he's missing. David and Katie Saltzman from Beaverton, Oregon, they're still both missing. Daniel Apathy, I haven't heard nothing from. He's from Greenock, Scotland. He's still missing. He was going to come here in person and help me, apparently, according to his words, but he never made it. He just, when I was locked up and put in prison for things that, guys, these officers know how to manipulate to get themselves out of trouble. They're trained how to do that. That's exactly what they're trained to do. They're trained in how to bypass the law and how to shoot people, and that's their training. I don't get it. I don't get why Rebecca still has to go through this, even with all of the overwhelming evidence that she's got. I don't get why she has to live in a tent. I don't get why she has to keep on moving. I do understand. I understand why she has to keep on moving. It doesn't feel good to be assaulted and treated like you're a nut job. It doesn't feel good when people's idea is to kick you in the face when you're trying to get help. Like that guy the other day with the rock. You know, he wasn't all there, but at the same time, he needed help. When you say somebody is not all there, that doesn't mean they don't need help, and it doesn't mean they don't know what they need. Kaycee is familiar with the brain surgery that she needs. She's familiar with the stent that has been in her head. I mean, that injury was sustained just a couple days after she was born, okay? They were supposed to replace it. A long time ago, it should have been replaced. I don't want her to die. I don't. She's got a tube that's supposed to drain the fluids out of her brain. And it is free floating in there. It's not supposed to. She's got severe migraines that cripple her. And, you know, it's hard for somebody to come into this world like that. I hope I was able to shed a lot of light on who her mother was, how her mother was. But, you know, she deserves an honest chance at life. She is so young. Oh my God, she is so young. She's an adult now, thank goodness. You know, that when I made the last missing persons post about her, because she went missing twice. So I made missing person posts twice. The last one, she was only 17 at the time she disappeared, but that was a few years ago. She still needs that surgery. Rebecca still needs help turning in this evidence and getting it heard. I mean, that is one of the most important things about the public, is that if the public doesn't care, the cops know they can do whatever they want, and they help to affect public opinion by accusing all of us homeless people, all of us who are impoverished that the public doesn't want to see. They want to spread the wives' tales about all of us being druggies and schizophrenics. We're not. The number one reason for most of us to be homeless is victimization. Most of us males aged out at the age of 18 from the system. Most of us were not in the system because we did wrong things. We were in the system because in the 1980s, all of our parents were strung out on cocaine. They had to put us somewhere, and all the foster homes were full. I lost my lighter because it's dark in here. I fidgeted with my phone until I was able to finally figure out how to make a live video. I didn't know how to do it before, but now I can. I don't have to do it on Facebook anymore. I got to deal with a lot of trolls, and a lot of you guys think that the trolls are the real problem. No, the real problem is police nationwide. When the choices are to take the abuse or take worse abuse, you know what? Yeah. When you try to turn in your predators, they're going to be angry. They're going to do everything that they can to shut down your voice, to prevent you from being heard. When you've got evidence of the stupid crap that they pulled, when you've got evidence that you were telling the truth every step of the way, they're going to do everything they can to try to convince other people not to look. Hence why the cops repeatedly went out of their way to play stupid when I was trying to turn in officers. These officers did not and have not done their jobs. They have not taken the situation seriously. I need someone to help me to coordinate this. I need someone to make these calls with me. I need to be able to have an advocate that I can trust will actually advocate for me. And how can they advocate for me if they're being mean and rude and inconsiderate without ever looking at any evidence? How am I supposed to trust that they're going to help me when one of their first acts is to throw a fucking tantrum at me? And also to treat me in a way that they wouldn't want to be treated in their situation. Rebecca needs to be heard. It's not that she wants to. People don't want the whole world to know these things, but the consequences are severe for us when you don't hear us. The consequences are severe when you allow our predators to go and when you allow them to destroy our good names. Before Natalie was killed, I had a good name. Rebecca had a good name too. She did good things for people. Now she's so caught up in her own trauma. And she can't get out of it. That's not a choice. That is not a choice. She's got to step into the lion's den to turn in her predators. Kaycee's got to try to come up with money on her own for that surgery, even though she should be entitled to it by law. They were supposed to do that years ago. See, this is what it is truly like to be poor. You tell us that these services are there, but they blow us off. You tell us they're not allowed to do these things and that they couldn't do these things. Those are two very different things. They couldn't means that they are not capable, and that is not the truth. They're absolutely capable of abusing their power. People do it all the time. That's why when there are situations where there are at-risk adults involved, there always needs to be someone there for them in person. Just because someone wants to call you mentally ill doesn't mean that you weren't abused. Just because people don't want to look doesn't mean that you weren't victimized. Just because people want to bully you and harass you and threaten to kill you and your family because you are speaking out about your abuse doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And these officers want to pretend like because they didn't do their jobs to investigate it, it must not have happened. No, there is multiple recordings on my YouTube channel, some of them of me being very nice, and some of them of me in the middle of a crisis where I am dealing with nut jobs in between my phone calls to the cops. Like one of my videos is called Law Enforcement at its Finest, and you get to see all sorts of the abuse all in one video where somebody is calling me up and threatening me and being harassing, and I've got this lady who's putting my little sister at risk. My sister did the right thing. When my family wanted to do the things that they did to try to intimidate her into not helping me when she said that she would, to push her away from actually looking at the evidence way back in 2018 at my grandma's funeral, I told my sister to pretend I was the bad guy. Maybe that'd keep people from being cruel to her and my niece. But you know what? Amber, I believe it's Amber Tilly or Amber Tully, she wanted to put my sister at risk. Had I actually been a predator, her trying to give up information on where my sister is at, putting my sister at risk, literally trying to tell somebody who could be Tara's predator. And this woman is getting a hold of me in a video where I'm also calling the police and calling dispatch and telling them about these people doing these crimes while I am literally recording the whole thing happening. And I'm showing the restricted phone calls, one after another, after another, after another, after another. It's not that the Dual County Sheriff's Department was not aware. It's that they wanted to ignore it, go out of their way to pretend it didn't happen and that I said nothing. You can also hear in some of those videos where I am very angry. I am well within my rights to be angry. The people that I used to be able to help, I could have helped Rebecca years ago before I hurt my back. I could have helped Natalie too, but it was obvious that her drug habits were her priority. When I left Virginia, I left them behind. I didn't want to abandon them, but I've had to deal with a lot of loss in my life. And I know when it's time for me to step away. And that's exactly what I did. Now, in all these other situations in my life where people did horrible stuff, I was able to eventually get away from it. It didn't follow me everywhere that I went. But the situation with Natalie did. I left Virginia, I got to Boulder, and Maddie Bowe had already spread her rumors, and I had to deal with that abuse in Boulder, Colorado. So I went to Chapel, Nebraska, because I couldn't be in Boulder, Colorado without being threatened or assaulted over things that I didn't do. It was Maddie Boa spreading those rumors, saying things that were not true. She was claiming that I did things to 2 girls in Virginia. That would be Natalie and Alicia. But Natalie and Alicia never claimed I did those things. That's just what Maddie Boa wanted to go spreading around town. And then her response when I called her out on it, after a year of trying to get help, please tell the truth. She's telling me to go to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting or an AA meeting. No, I need you to tell the truth. I wasn't asking Maddie Boa to go kill people. I wasn't asking her to give up her firstborn. I wasn't asking her to sell her soul for a cigarette. When I was going to Joanna Taylor Smith, see, that's the thing, is that when the people that you're accused of doing this crap to, Natalie and Alicia Bollinger, these are the ones Maddie Boa accused me of doing these things to. I proved that those things didn't happen. By Natalie and Alicia's own words, those things didn't happen. I'm taking this abuse because of slander. When I went to Virginia in 2016 in October, and I was severely dehydrated, and I went to the hospital, the evidence proves that yes, I was dehydrated. Yes, I did go to the hospital. I was not arrested. I was taken to the hospital because dehydration is a severe issue there, and it is a medical emergency. You will die of dehydration. I'd been dehydrated for days. We got to do better. I hear that a lot. I see people typing it a lot. Well, are you getting individually involved? Instead of generalizing that something needs to be done, why don't you be the change? These people are begging you for help. They are begging you to take a look instead of generalizing and saying, oh, well, I did something. Generalizing that how mentally ill people are treated is good enough. No. You have to help fight the individual cases. You have to take an active role. You got to be willing to take these people to court. You got to be willing to make a police report. You got to be willing to talk to the media, and you got to be willing to record every goddamn thing that you say or do in every single day, because people will go out of their way to try to take it out of context. People told me I needed to cover my ass. I've been covering my ass since day one, but not just mine. I tried covering their asses too, but they needed to come forward eventually. Innocent people are dead because I was not heard. Directly dead over the direct actions that I attempted repeatedly to turn in. I tried to turn in the crimes committed against me by Waylon Lolatai. I was sent to Clearview. And Waylon Lolatai assaulted at least 6 more people on camera in 2018. After I had tried to turn him in. So I was sent to Clearview for trying to turn him in. Clearview was in a different jurisdiction. They didn't tell me that, and they also wouldn't let me make a police report. They wouldn't let me call the police. They wouldn't hear a goddamn thing about any of it. And I spoke out about how I was treated at Clearview, about the assault against me and the abuse that I endured there. And then they were later closed down because they literally killed a man doing exactly what I told you that they were doing from the start. And you still won't hear it. You'd rather believe rumors than facts. You'd rather believe the gaslighters than the victims. You'd rather just let these people die. They're poor, they don't matter. I get it. I get that you think that way, but I don't agree with it. I'm going to end this video now, and hopefully I did it all right. I don't actually know how to end the video. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Learn more. And then there's a little flip the camera around thing. Okay, that's Hood River, Oregon, off in the distance. And somebody with their blinkers on. All right. And then there's the chat button. So